Okay, so the last component that all of these will pretty much feed into is this idea of a downward economic spiral. And it's sort of, I usually write on the board this sort of spiral that's, turning downward. The two major components that we talked about in class already, too, are jobs and spending. So if spending decreases significantly, companies will respond by doing one of two things. Either today, maybe not as likely, but back then, certainly cutting wages um, for sure. And, basically saying to people, like, this is what we can do if you want a job. And it gets pretty desperate as time goes on. So if you want a job, you know, you will have to work for less. And people became willing to do that. Or they were laid off. Not the same as fired. Laid off is when, there's just a reduction in force. It's called a RIF. You haven't done anything wrong. It's just that they can't afford to continue your position. Okay, so if companies are if companies have a decrease, if consumers have a decrease in spending, right, that impacts the companies, and the companies manage that then by cutting wages or laying off workers. So if I think about this, if I know that my buddy that I work with has just lost his job, or I'm have had a decrease in my own wages, then what am I likely to do in terms of spending money? I'm likely to not spend as much money. I am likely to save money. Great. It's wonderful that our people are saving money, but at a time where we really need to continue to produce jobs and to keep the jobs that we've got and to sell the products that are sitting in those warehouses, it becomes very problematic if people slow down in their spending. Another reason people would slow down in their spending is because they become overextended in their credit. They cannot manage the bills that they've got and then continue to spend because they've got too much on credit. So they're going to slow down their spending. So if you've got those guys slowing down their spending, and then you've got people who are worried about losing their jobs slowing down their spending, or they've lost their jobs and they're worried about spending, then that what happens is it keeps going down. And so with the spending keeps going down, how do companies manage that? They manage it by continuing to cut workers, which just inflames and exacerbates that entire cycle and makes it so that companies are even more likely to cut wages and to reduce their workforce. This becomes extremely dangerous. So one of the things that needs to happen, if you think about it, what do we need? We need people spending money. Okay, fine. Once the crash happens and the really rotten stuff starts to happen where people are losing their jobs and the spending is slowed and all of that, if people are going to spend money, what do they need? They need jobs. And so that's going to be what will stop this economic downturn and bring it back, going back in the other direction, jobs and spending.